Certified case files. Genuine evidence. Objective truth. You are viewing Bodycam incident reports.
Step off the boat, now. Get on your knees or you will be sprayed.
I'm stepping down, but I'm not kneeling. This is my boat. You have no cause.
You don't look like the owner. Hands behind your back. Last warning.
You're on camera. This is unlawful and you're about to ruin your career.
You got
The man standing on the immaculate teak deck of the 40-foot cabin cruiser wasn't shouting. He wasn't waving his arms. He was Marcus Thorne, and at 62 years old, he possessed a stillness that only comes from surviving combat zones and corporate boardrooms. He stood with his feet shoulder-width apart, wearing a crisp polo shirt and boat shoes, holding a polishing rag. He looked every bit the master of his domain, but Officer Kyle Braden didn't see a master. He saw a threat. He saw a black man on a boat that cost more than the officer would make in 10 years, and his mind had already filled in the blanks with prejudice rather than facts. "Last warning," Braden shouted, his hand dropping to the pepper spray canister on his belt. "Get on the dock, get on your knees, and interlace your fingers. You are under arrest for trespassing and failure to obey." "I'm coming down," Marcus said, his voice dropping an octave, deadly calm. "But I am not getting on my knees. I have bad knees from serving this country, and I am the owner of this slip and this vessel. You are making a mistake that you cannot undo." Before we dive deeper into this absolutely infuriating story of authority gone wrong, I need you to do something for me. Pause this for a second and drop a comment right now. Tell me where you are watching from your city, your state, your country, and if you believe that a man shouldn't be harassed for enjoying the fruits of his own hard labor just because of the color of his skin, hit that subscribe button. This story exposes the dark underbelly of assumptions in policing, and you need to see how it ends. Marcus Thorne was not a man who sought attention. He had spent 30 years in the United States Marine Corps, retiring with the rank of colonel. He had led battalions in the Gulf and organized logistics in the Pacific. After retiring from the service, he founded a global logistics firm that specialized in maritime shipping. He employed 4,000 people. He sat on the board of the local hospital. He was a pillar of the community in this wealthy coastal Florida town. That Tuesday morning, Marcus had come down to the marina early. The sun was just burning off the morning mist. The water was glass. He was planning to take his boat, the Semper Fi, out for a solo run to clear his head before a merger meeting later in the week. He had unlocked the gate with his key fob. He had walked down the pier, greeting the dockmaster by name. He had uncovered the boat and was wiping down the chrome railing, enjoying the silence and the salt air. He wasn't suspicious. He wasn't hiding. He was doing exactly what every other boat owner in the marina did. He was taking pride in his property. But to Officer Kyle Braden, who was patrolling the parking lot and had decided to walk the docks, Marcus didn't fit the profile. Braden saw a black man on a luxury yacht and didn't see an owner. He saw a maintenance worker acting too comfortable, or worse, a thief casing the vessel. The confrontation that followed would not just ruin a morning. It would expose the deep rot of implicit bias in the department and cost the city a fortune. But in that moment, as Marcus stepped onto the dock, wiping the polish from his hands, he wasn't thinking about lawsuits. He was thinking about discipline. He was thinking about how hard it was to remain calm when a man half your age is treating you like a criminal in your own backyard. To understand how things escalated so quickly, we have to look at the minutes leading up to the shouting. It was 9:00 a.m. on a Tuesday. The marina was largely empty, save for a few retirees sipping coffee on their aft decks and the maintenance crews scrubbing hulls 3 piers over. The silence was heavy and peaceful. The only sounds were the gentle lapping of water against fiberglass and the distant cry of gulls. Officer Kyle Braden was 28 years old and had been with the department for 4 years. He was known in the precinct as a go-getter, which was a polite code used by the older sergeants to describe someone who was aggressive, looked for trouble where there wasn't any, and had a hard time distinguishing between a citizen and a suspect. He had transferred from a rougher district to the Marina Patrol, a posting that was supposed to be low stress. But Braden carried his aggression with him like a loaded weapon. He had parked his cruiser and walked through the gate, which had been propped open by a vendor delivering ice. As he walked down the main pier, his eyes scanned the boats. He saw Marcus Thorne aboard the Semper Fi. Marcus was bent over the railing polishing a cleat. Braden stopped. He watched for a full minute. In his mind, the math didn't add up. The boat was a pristine 2022 Sea Ray valued easily over $400,000. The man on the deck was black, older, broad-shouldered. Braden didn't check the marina registry. He didn't call the dockmaster. He didn't wave a friendly hello. He assumed. He assumed that Marcus was either a hired detailer who was unauthorized to be there or someone trying to steal electronics from the cabin. It was a bias born of ignorance, fueled by a lack of exposure to black wealth and solidified by a power complex. Braden began to walk down the finger pier toward the Semper Fi. His hand instinctively went to his belt resting just above his holster. It was a ready stance, a signal of aggression. He didn't approach with a smile. He approached with a challenge. "Hey." Braden called out, his voice cutting through the morning calm. Marcus looked up. He squinted against the sun, shielding his eyes with his hand. He saw the uniform and straightened up, nodding politely. "Good morning, officer. Can I help you?" Braden stopped 10 feet away. He didn't return the greeting. He hooked his thumbs into his vest. "Is the owner around?" The question hung in the air, heavy and insulting. It was the same question Marcus had heard in department stores, in first-class lounges, and in his own neighborhood. It was the assumption that he couldn't possibly be the principal, only the help. Marcus sighed internally, but his face remained impassive. "I am the owner." Braden let out a short, dismissive scoff. "Right. And I own the space shuttle. I asked you a question. Where is the owner of this vessel? We've had reports of unauthorized individuals on the docks." "There are no unauthorized individuals here," Marcus said, putting the rag down on the seat. "My name is Marcus Thorne. This is my boat. I have the registration in the cabin if you need to see it, but I don't appreciate the tone." "I don't care what you appreciate," Braden snapped, stepping closer, invading the personal space of the slip. "I care about securing this marina." "You don't look like the owner to me. You look like someone who needs to explain why he's digging around in a boat that doesn't belong to him." "And what does an owner look like, officer?" Marcus asked. He didn't raise his voice, but the steel in his tone was undeniable. "Do they look like you? Or do they look like the name on the title?" Braden's face flushed. He wasn't used to being challenged, certainly not by someone he had already categorized as a suspect. "Let me see some ID, now." "I don't have my wallet on me," Marcus said. "It's in the cabin. I can go get it." "No," Braden shouted, his hand dropping to his weapon again. "You're not going into the cabin to grab a weapon. Step off the boat, immediately." "Officer," Marcus said, planting his feet, "I am not leaving my vessel. You have no reasonable suspicion to detain me. Being black on a boat is not a crime. Florida is a stop and ID state only if you have reasonable suspicion of a crime. Articulate the crime." "The crime is trespassing," Braden yelled, losing control of the situation. "And refusing a lawful order. Get off the boat or I'm coming aboard." The quiet morning at the marina had shattered. The shouting attracted attention. 2 piers over a couple washing down their sailboat stopped and turned. A man walking his dog on the promenade paused. And crucially, a woman named Sarah, who was sitting on her balcony in the condos overlooking the marina, picked up her phone. She hit record. Marcus stood his ground on the deck of the Semper Fi. He knew the law better than the man trying to arrest him. He had spent years navigating maritime law for his logistics company, and he had read the Constitution more times than he could count. He saw the danger in Braden's eyes, the fragile ego of a young man with a gun and a badge who felt his authority slipping away. "Officer," Marcus said, his voice projecting clearly so the gathering witnesses could hear. "I am asking you to de-escalate. You are making an assumption based on bias. I have offered to show you the registration. I have the key fob in my pocket. You are currently violating my Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable seizure. I'm not going to debate the Constitution with a trespasser." Braden stepped onto the gunwale of the boat. The boat rocked slightly under his weight. "You do not have permission to board," Marcus warned. "This is a federally documented vessel. You need a warrant or probable cause. You have neither." "My probable cause is you acting suspicious and belligerent," Braden retorted. He was now on the deck, inches from Marcus. The height difference was apparent. Marcus was 6'2", solid muscle. Braden was 5'10", relying entirely on his tools for dominance. "Turn around, hands behind your back." "I am not resisting," Marcus said loudly, looking directly at Sarah on the balcony, though he didn't know she was there. "I am stating that this is an unlawful arrest. I am the owner of this property. I have committed no crime." "You're under arrest for obstruction." Braden grabbed Marcus's wrist. Marcus didn't pull away. He didn't flinch. He knew that any movement could be interpreted as assault on an officer in the police report. He let his arm go limp. "I am complying under duress. But understand this, son. You are making a mistake that will follow you for the rest of your life." "Don't call me son," Braden hissed, twisting Marcus's arm behind his back with unnecessary force. He kicked Marcus's legs apart. "Spread 'em." "There is no need for force," Marcus said, wincing slightly as his rotator cuff, injured in Fallujah, screamed in protest. "I am standing still. I am cooperating." "Stop talking!" Braden fumbled for his handcuffs. The metal ratcheted tight around Marcus's wrists. From the dock, a voice called out. It was Mr. Henderson, a 70-year-old retired surgeon who owned the boat next to Marcus. "Hey, officer, what the hell are you doing?" "That's Marcus. He owns that boat." Braden looked up, startled. "Back off, sir. This is an active police investigation." "Investigation?" Henderson yelled, walking down the finger pier. "He's been my neighbor for 5 years. You're arresting Colonel Thorne. Are you out of your mind?" Braden froze for a split second. Colonel Neighbor. The seeds of doubt should have taken root then. He should have stopped, asked a question, perhaps checked the ID he had refused earlier. But the adrenaline was pumping and he had an audience. To back down now would be to admit he was wrong in front of these wealthy white people. It would be a loss of face. So he doubled down. "He refused to identify himself and resisted a lawful order," Braden shouted back at Henderson. "Step back or you'll be arrested for interference." Marcus looked at Henderson and shook his head gently. "It's all right, Bob. Let him do it. Let him finish this. He needs to learn." "This is insane," Henderson muttered, pulling out his own phone. "I'm calling the chief." "You do that," Marcus said softly. Braden shoved Marcus toward the dock. "Move. Now." They walked down the pier, the procession of the dignified older black man in handcuffs and the flustered young white officer. People stopped and stared. Whispers rippled through the marina. The optics were terrible, but the reality was worse. A man who had defended his country's freedom was being stripped of his own because he dared to exist in a space an officer thought he didn't belong. The walk to the patrol car was a parade of humiliation, but Marcus Thorne carried it like a dignitary. He kept his head high, his back straight, despite the handcuffs biting into his wrists. He did not look at the ground. He looked the bystanders in the eye, nodding to those he recognized. It was a display of supreme confidence that seemed to unsettle Officer Braden even more. Braden, by contrast, was sweating. The conviction he had felt on the boat was evaporating with every step. The reaction of the other boaters, the shock, the anger directed at him was not what he expected. He expected gratitude for catching a thief. Instead, he was getting glares from men in Rolexes and women in tennis skirts. "You're hurting my shoulder," Marcus said calmly as they reached the gate. "I have a service injury. I would ask that you loosen the cuffs." "They're fine," Braden snapped, opening the back door of his cruiser. "Get in." "I am asking you to follow procedure regarding restraints on compliant subjects with injuries," Marcus pressed. "And I'm telling you to get in the car." Braden shoved Marcus's head down, pushing him into the cramped back seat. The plastic was hard, the cage claustrophobic. It was a space designed to dehumanize, and Marcus had been in similar vehicles before, but usually in the front seat commanding a convoy. Braden slammed the door. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Have you ever been accused of something you didn't do just because of how you looked? Type yes or no in the comments. It's a terrible feeling, isn't it? The powerlessness. But Marcus wasn't powerless. He was just biding his time. Braden got into the driver's seat. He didn't start the car immediately. He sat there gripping the steering wheel, his knuckles white. He was replaying the interaction. He refused to ID. He was on private property. I have probable cause. He was trying to convince himself. He picked up the radio. "Dispatch Unit 4 Alpha, 1 in custody, transporting to central booking. Copy 4 Alpha. Charge trespassing, failure to obey, resisting without violence." There was a pause on the radio. Then, "Copy. Time is 9:15. Braden started the engine. He didn't look at Marcus in the rearview mirror. He pulled out of the marina lot, driving faster than necessary. In the back seat, Marcus closed his eyes. He wasn't sleeping. He was organizing his thoughts. He mentally reviewed the sequence of events. No reasonable suspicion articulated, refusal to check registration, excessive force on the arm, failure to de-escalate, witness statements available from Henderson and the woman on the balcony. He thought about his wife, Eleanor. She would be worried if he didn't call by 10 o'clock. He thought about the board meeting. He would miss it. But then he thought about the young men he mentored, the boys from his old neighborhood who didn't have his rank or his money. If this could happen to a colonel on a $500,000 boat, what was happening to them on the street corner? "Officer," Marcus said from the back, his voice cutting through the silence. "You have a supervisor, a Lieutenant Miller. Is he on duty?" Braden's eyes flicked to the mirror. "What do you know about Lieutenant Miller?" "I know he plays golf at the club on Sundays. I know he served in the Army. And I know he is going to be very disappointed in you." "Shut up," Braden said, but his voice wavered. "You can tell your stories to the judge." "Oh, I will," Marcus said. "And to the Internal Affairs Bureau. And to the federal magistrate." The rest of the ride passed in silence. Braden turned up the radio to drown out the sound of his own anxiety. Marcus sat still, a statue of patience. He knew that the moment they walked into that station, the dynamic would shift. Braden was bringing a shark into a swimming pool, and he didn't even know it. The patrol car pulled into the sally port of the precinct. The heavy metal door rolled down behind them, sealing them in the concrete bay. The smell of exhaust and industrial cleaner filled the air. It was a smell Marcus associated with leadership inspections, but here it was the scent of captivity. Braden hauled Marcus out of the car. He didn't offer to help him with his footing despite Marcus's age. They walked through the double doors into the processing area. The booking room was busy. Phones were ringing, officers were typing reports. At the main desk sat Sergeant Kowalski, a 55-year-old veteran of the force who had seen everything. He was drinking coffee and reviewing a shift schedule. He looked up as Braden entered with his prisoner. Kowalski's eyes went from Braden to Marcus. He paused. He squinted. Then his coffee cup stopped halfway to his mouth. He saw the posture, the grooming, the clothes. He saw the ring on Marcus's finger, the heavy gold signet of the U.S. Marine Corps, specifically the Naval Academy ring. Kowalski had served in the Navy. He knew that ring. "Braden," Kowalski said, his voice slow and deep. "Who do you have there?" "Trespasser from the marina," Braden said, trying to sound authoritative but failing as he felt the weight of Kowalski's stare. "Refused to ID. Resisted arrest." Marcus stood silently. He looked at Kowalski and gave a single sharp nod. It was a nod of recognition, officer, to NCO. Kowalski stood up slowly. "Trespassing at the marina." "Yes, Sarge. He was on a boat. Refused to get off." "Which boat?" Kowalski asked, walking around the desk. "The Semper Fi," Braden said. Kowalski stopped. He looked at Marcus. "Sir," Kowalski said, addressing the prisoner, not the officer. "Are you Colonel Thorne?" "I am Sergeant," Marcus replied. The room seemed to drop 10 degrees in temperature. Every other officer in the room stopped what they were doing. Braden looked between Kowalski and Marcus, confusion clouding his face. "You know him." "Braden," Kowalski said, his voice dangerously low. "Take the cuffs off, now." "But Sarge, I said take the damn cuffs off," Kowalski roared. The sound echoed off the cinderblock walls. "You just arrested the owner of the logistics company that donated the tactical vests you are wearing right now." Braden's face went pale. The blood drained from his cheeks. His hands shook as he reached for his key. He fumbled with the lock. The cuffs clicked open. Marcus rubbed his wrists. There were deep red indentations where the metal had dug in. He didn't complain. He just looked at Braden. "Thank you." I didn't know," Braden stammered. "He wouldn't show ID." "Did you ask him if it was his boat?" Kowalski asked, stepping into Braden's space. "He said it was, but he fit the description of a suspicious person." "What description?" Marcus asked quietly. "Black and breathing." Braden didn't answer. He couldn't. "Sergeant," Marcus said, turning to Kowalski, "I want Lieutenant Miller down here, and I want the captain, and I want a photographer to document these injuries on my wrists before they fade." "Right away, Colonel," Kowalski said. "Officer Hernandez, get the camera. Braden, go to the break room and stay there. Don't speak to anyone. Give me your body camera." Braden unclipped the camera from his chest. He handed it over like a child surrendering a toy. He looked at Marcus one last time, looking for mercy. He found none. He walked out of the room, his head hanging low. Marcus stood in the center of the booking room, rubbing his wrist. He wasn't just a victim anymore. He was the commanding officer taking control of a disorderly unit. Lieutenant Miller was in his office reviewing budget allocations when his door was knocked on hard. Before he could answer, Sergeant Kowalski stuck his head in. "LT, you need to come to booking, now." "What is it, skipped lunch?" Miller joked, but stopped when he saw Kowalski's face. "Braden brought in a trespasser from the marina. And it's Marcus Thorne." Miller dropped his pen. It clattered onto the desk. "Colonel Thorne, in cuffs. Braden charged him with trespassing on his own boat." Miller didn't say another word. He was out of his chair and moving. He knew Marcus Thorne well. They had served on the Veterans Day Parade Committee together. Thorne was a man of immense influence and impeccable character. Arresting him was like arresting the mayor, only worse because the mayor didn't have Thorne's combat training or his legal team. When Miller entered the booking area, he saw Marcus sitting on a bench, a young officer applying an ice pack to his wrist. Marcus looked up. "Marcus," Miller said, the shame evident in his voice. I don't even have words." "Save the apologies for the press conference, Frank," Marcus said. He stood up, wincing slightly. "Are you injured?" "Rotator cuff is flared up. Wrists are bruised. But my dignity is intact." "I can't say the same for your department." Miller turned to Kowalski. "Where is the arrest report?" Braden hadn't finished it. "I pulled the body cam footage. It's queuing up on your terminal." "I want to see it," Marcus said. and I want a copy preserved immediately." "Done," Miller said. "Marcus, you are free to go, obviously. We are dropping all charges. This was a misunderstanding." "No, Frank," Marcus said, his voice hardening. "A misunderstanding is when you buy the wrong type of milk. This was an unlawful detention assault and a violation of my civil rights based on racial profiling. That boy didn't see a boat owner. He saw a black man and decided I didn't belong." Miller sighed, rubbing his temples. He knew Marcus was right. He had seen the stats on Braden. He had warned the shift sergeant to keep an eye on him. He hadn't acted fast enough. "We will handle this internally," Miller said. "That's not good enough," Marcus replied. "I'm not filing a complaint, Frank. I'm filing a lawsuit, and I'm going to make sure that video sees the light of day. Not for me, I can handle myself, but for the kid who doesn't have my rank or my money. If Braden does this to me, imagine what he does to a teenager in a hoodie." Miller nodded slowly. "I understand." "I need my phone," Marcus said. "I need to call my wife, and then my lawyer." Kowalski handed Marcus his personal effects bag. Marcus pulled out his phone. He dialed a number. "Eleanor. Yes, I'm fine. No, I didn't get the boat out. I'm at the precinct. No, I'm not visiting. I was arrested. I'll explain when I get home. Call David immediately. Tell him to meet me at the house. We have a federal case to file." He hung up and looked at Miller. "I'm leaving now. I expect the preservation order for all footage, dash cam, body cam, and the station audio to be honored." "It will be," Miller said. Marcus walked out of the station. He didn't look back. He took an Uber home, sitting in the back of a civilian sedan this time. He looked out the window at the town he had helped build, the town he had defended, and felt a profound sadness. He had done everything right. He had served. He had succeeded. He had followed the rules, and it still wasn't enough to protect him from the assumption of criminality. But as the sadness faded, the Marine kicked in. He had a new mission now. The fallout was swift and brutal. Marcus's legal team filed the lawsuit 48 hours later. It was a scorched earth document citing Terry versus Ohio U.S. versus Mendenhall and specific Florida statutes regarding maritime property rights. But the real damage wasn't done in the courtroom. It was done in the court of public opinion. The video from Sarah's balcony hit social media on Thursday. By Friday morning, it had 4 million views. The image of the dignified, calm black man being manhandled by the aggressive young white officer was visually striking. Then the body cam footage was released by the department in an attempt to be transparent, but it only made things worse. Viewers watched Braden approach with his hand on his gun. They heard the sneering tone. They heard Marcus calmly explain his rights. They heard the neighbor, Mr. Henderson, beg the officer to stop. And they saw Braden's ego drive him off a cliff. The comments section was on fire. "He served his country, and this is how he gets treated. Fire that cop immediately. The patience of that man is godlike." The internal investigation was concluded in record time. There was no way to save Braden. The chief of police held a press conference. "Officer Kyle Braden has been terminated effective immediately," the chief announced, looking tired and defeated under the glare of TV lights. "His actions do not reflect the values of this department." But the investigation revealed more. It turned out Braden had a history. In his previous precinct, he had 6 complaints for discourtesy and bias-based policing. All had been dismissed as unfounded by his previous supervisors. But the data showed a pattern. He stopped luxury vehicles driven by minorities at a rate 4 times higher than the department average. Marcus sat in his living room watching the press conference with his wife Eleanor. His arm was in a sling. "They're firing him," Eleanor said softly. "He's just the symptom, Elle," Marcus said. "The disease is that he was comfortable doing it in broad daylight. He thought the badge gave him the right to judge who belongs where." The city attorney called Marcus's lawyer the next day. They wanted to settle. They didn't want a trial. A trial would mean putting Marcus Thorne on the stand in his dress blues, telling a jury how he was treated like a criminal. No city budget could survive that verdict. The settlement offer was substantial, $750,000. The city wanted a non-disclosure agreement. Marcus refused. No NDA, Marcus told his lawyer. They can keep their money if they want silence. I want the policy changed. I want the training changed. And I want the settlement public. The city caved. They paid the money. They agreed to a consent decree that mandated third-party auditing of all stop and ID encounters for the next 5 years. Marcus took the check. He didn't keep a dime. He established the Thorne Legal Defense Fund for veterans, specifically designed to provide high-quality legal representation for veterans who were victims of police misconduct. Kyle Braden tried to appeal his firing through the union. The union rep watched the video once and told him, "We can't win this. You didn't just break policy, you broke the law. And you did it to a guy who knows the law better than you do." Braden lost his certification. He moved 2 states away, unable to work in law enforcement ever again. 6 months later, Marcus Thorne returned to the marina. It was a Tuesday, just like before. The sun was shining. The water was calm. He walked down the pier. This time, the new marina patrol officer, a young Hispanic woman, stopped when she saw him. She smiled and waved. "Good morning, Colonel. Semper Fi is looking good today." "Good morning, officer," Marcus replied. "Thank you." He stepped onto his boat. He untied the lines. He felt the familiar vibration of the engines coming to life. He steered the boat out of the slip past the spot where he had been handcuffed. It was a victory, yes. He had won. The bad apple was gone. The policies were changed. The money was doing good work. But as Marcus steered the boat into the open water of the Atlantic, he didn't feel triumphant. He felt tired. He realized that no matter how much money he made, no matter how many medals he wore, no matter how high he climbed, there would always be a moment where he had to prove he was human. He had to prove he had a right to be there. And that burden was heavy. He throttled up the bow of the boat, rising against the waves. The salt spray hit his face. For the first time in months, he felt truly free. This story isn't just about a boat or a bad cop. It's about the dignity of a man who refused to be small. It's about the reality that for many, innocent until proven guilty, is a luxury, not a right. Marcus Thorne had the resources to fight back. Most people don't. What would you have done if you were in Marcus's shoes? Would you have kept your cool, or would you have lost it? And do you think the settlement was enough to pay for the humiliation he endured? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And if this story moved you, please share it. Awareness is the first step toward change. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about justice, accountability, and the people who stand up for what's right. Until next time, stay safe and know your rights.
Case officially closed. For more authentic law enforcement footage, please leave a like and subscribe. Thanks for joining Bodycam Incident Reports.